What's up, Knight fans? Sons of UCF is proudly presented by the law firm of Gordon & Partners. Since 1993, Gordon & Partners have been dedicated to the pursuit of justice for those who have been wrongfully injured at no fault of their own. It's important that you get legal advice from somebody you trust, so contact UCF alum Michael Hoffman directly if you have any legal needs or questions. Visit their website, fortheinjured.com, or text 407-913-5350 to talk to Michael directly. Don't just trust anybody, trust the best, and trust a Knight. Gordon & Partners, for the injured.
This is the Sons of UCF, the number one place for UCF sports, with your distinguished host, Adam.
Let's all get together and see who can solve the Wordle the fastest.
And Mike.
You know, last year I think I said about 30 people in the Sons of UCF group. Let's try to double that. Let's try to get 50.
Now, here are the guys.
Greetings, Knight Nation. Welcome back to the Sons of UCF, episode number 186. My name is Adam, and as always, my friend and yours, Mr. UCF Mike, off of a apple pie eating contest championship victory, or how did we fare there?
I got a participation T-shirt out of the deal, and I got some free apple pie. So that's all I was really going for. I heard that they were hosting a contest. I heard free apple pie, and I signed up for it. So I got what I wanted.
All right. Well, you're going to get what you want out of this show too, Mike. We have a nice agenda this evening. We'll do Cow of the Week. We caught up with a really great UCF receiver, Tyson Hinshaw. If you don't know his records, he had a really good career at UCF and has a lot of good stories. He was in those Daunte years and the Vic Penn Bridge year and into the Schneider era and then the Alabama win and some of the close losses. He gets into all that stuff, so stick around for Tyson Hinshaw. And then my conference realignment. There's no dodging it. There's no hiding from it. We can't get around it. We must talk about it, so we'll do conference realignment in just a second. But make sure you are following us wherever you do following type things, Twitter and Instagram at Sons UCF, and subscribe to that YouTube channel, Mike. The YouTube channel winner, Dan Cundiff, received his tumbler in the mail, so we are all squared away. We have got all matters handled from the YouTube channel, but we may have some more merch coming soon, so keep subscribing. You never know when the Sons of UCF merch closet's going to break wide open and more are available. So subscribe to the podcast. Just do all that stuff. It'll make us happy.
I've seen some of the new merch, and I'm going to tell you, you guys are going to be pretty impressed with some of this stuff. I don't know if we have enough of it. Because
we don't. No, we don't. No. We don't. We're going to have to really, you're going to have to subscribe to a lot of YouTube channels for some of this merch. But either way, make sure you're following all of us, myself, Mike, Trace, on all of our social media stuff. It makes us happy, Mike, and that's what we want to do. Because what's not making us happy, or maybe is making us happy, or I don't even know how to feel about it anymore. I'm actually concerned because you and I are recording this on Tuesday night. Usually we do Mondays, but we did Tuesday this week as a holiday. It is around 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we are going to talk about conference realignment. My fear is that by Wednesday morning, when people are listening to this in their eardrums, everything we're about to say is completely wrong and something else has completely changed. So I have no idea if any of this stuff will actually hold on for 12 hours for us to actually release this episode. But we're going to give it a go anyway, Mike. For those of you who've been living under a rock or have been asleep for the last 7 days, the college football world turned on its head when USC and UCLA decided to go to the Big Ten. A surprise move, but makes some sense. They're trying to get some money out of the deal. And that has left really two power conferences now kind of angling each other, the Big Ten and the SEC. But that has left the other three conferences, the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC, sort of left figuring out what to do next, Mike. UCF obviously about to enter the Big 12. We thought we were there. Are they pulling us back out? I have no idea, but let's just start here. You're a purist. I know you love your traditional sort of football, and I understand, I think, where you lean on this, but your thoughts when you recognize that the Big Ten and the SEC essentially are now morphed into these super conferences.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all about what happened the other day. I think we've seen this coming. We've been waiting for this to happen. Maybe people were a little shocked that day, but really, if you look at the calendar, that was the day it was going to happen. Usually, and it was right around the same time last year with Oklahoma and Texas, because you got to get these deals done before July 1st. It's the new calendar year when it comes to college sports. But yeah, if this thing goes to 2 mega conferences with just the SEC and the Big Ten, that is probably not going to be good for us, right? Because if those conferences go to 20 teams each, maybe even 24, you're talking about 48 schools. Do we make that? Do we crack that list? The top 48 programs? I don't know if we can do it. So now we got to hope for the Big 12 to solidify here and become a mega conference in itself. And it seems that's what they're trying to do here. New commissioner Brett Yormark is coming in, being aggressive, and he's looking to add some teams here. Maybe we can poach from the Big 12, from the Pac-12, and make this conference an 18, 20-team conference in itself. Then maybe we'll still be around for some of this big-time college stuff. But even then, I'm not sure. I think the Big Ten and the SEC are just going to take their money and run with it and kind of just create their own league, and that's what I'm most scared of right now.
Yeah. But do we crack that top 40? I think that's an interesting question. And you could argue it, I think, a few different ways. I mean, there are some schools who have been in Power 5 conferences for centuries, half centuries, that have no business playing college football at that high level, right? Vanderbilt comes to mind. Kansas comes to mind. These are schools that, have just been in these conferences and really have no business sort of being a part of it. So in some respects, UCF, an up-and-coming brand, you would think they could squeeze in over that. But what we've learned, if anything, Mike, is that geography has nothing to do with this anymore. Nobody gives a crap about geography. Nobody cares about, the flight from, LA to, Piscataway for UCLA and Rutgers to take battle on the soccer pitch one afternoon. None of that stuff matters. It's about brands, and it's about money, and it's about the ability to continue to derive revenue and own sort of markets, if you will. And I think that's where UCF is somewhat attractive over some of these other schools. But the challenge is we're playing from behind because we're not one of these, historical blue blood programs. And so much of news today. And again, how much of this is accurate or true, I have no idea. I'm just going to report to you what's been reported. I'm trying to go through sources that are actually credible versus the fake Brett Yormark that was on Twitter today. That was actually pretty funny. But there was a report out there that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 tried to talk merger. And the Pac-12 said, sure, we can do that, but y'all got to scrap UCF and BYU, right? So if that's any indication of maybe in some respects how we might be treated, I think that's an example of again, somebody saying get rid of UCF, not recognizing where we are. And to your point, that's the fear that people would have, is not giving enough credence to look and actually recognize the program UCF has put together these past 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I've seen conferences add schools. I have yet to see a conference get rid of a school. Right? I'm not seeing the SEC get rid of Vanderbilt. I'm not seeing the Big Ten just drop Indiana or Illinois or one of these schools that are no good at football. So that's going to be our biggest obstacle. Is how can we leapfrog past those schools and get ourselves into these conferences? I don't know if it's possible right now. Seeing the Pac-12 want to keep us out, that's not a good sign. I don't know how true that is. But if it does come down to the Pac-12 and the Big 12, who poaches who? If the Pac-12 decides to start taking Big 12 schools, then we're in big trouble. Yeah. Then we're back to where that's the worst case scenario. We're back to a Big 12 that's going to have to backfill with American Conference teams, and all of a sudden we're back in the same conference with Memphis and the Cows and Tulane and Temple again. And that's just going to drive me completely nuts. So hopefully that does not happen. The Big 12 here needs to step up, and if they can get these 6 schools from the Pac-12, like they were talking about today, Oregon and Washington were told no thanks by the Big 10 right now. So if we can squeeze those in with Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado, all of a sudden now the Big 12 is looking stronger than even the ACC. Definitely the Pac-12 and all these other conferences that are out there. The remaining schools of the Pac-12 are going to end up where? In the Mountain West? So those you feel for schools like Stanford and Washington State, because nobody wants
Cal, yeah. Well, a lot of it initially, the reports were the next domino to fall would be Washington and Oregon, like you mentioned, and they were believed to be Big Ten bound, Well, now all the reporting out there is that the Big Ten is pretty much all set. They would take Notre Dame if Notre Dame will go, but it seems like Notre Dame is going to play the slow game and not really decide what to do. So it leaves Oregon and Washington kind of in a bit of a purgatory. There's one report, again, I don't know how confirmed this is, that Washington and Oregon have interest in potentially a Big 12, but they have not yet formally applied. And a lot of this is going to boil down to, surprise, surprise, Mike, money. So probably the interesting piece of news that came today, at least on Tuesday, the Pac-12 decided that they were going to begin the process of opening up their television contract negotiations now. Well, why do you do that, right? You do that because you want to show your schools how much money they can make by staying in the Pac-12. The Big 12, their contract doesn't come up until the following year. So in theory, the Pac-12 is 1 year, calendar year ahead of where the Big 12 is. Now, that doesn't stop the Big 12 from trying to do something similar and work up numbers. The thing about this is, how do you work up numbers for a conference that isn't fully intact, A, but B, if you're Washington and Oregon, it's almost like a general life principle, right? Before you leave your current job, you find out if they're willing to pay you more money, right? You go to your hey, listen, I'm thinking about going to this company here. What's your counter offer, right? So if you're Oregon and Washington, you kind of sit there and go, okay, let's let these people figure out what they want to do and how much money they're going to throw our way, and we'll figure out if that's a deal we want. And if it is, then great, we sign on, we take it. If it's not, then we know we have the Big 12 and maybe even the ACC. They're still lurking out there. Don't forget about them. And so that's an option. But then Colorado tonight, Mike, I don't know if you saw this yet. They had an emergency board of trustees or board of whatever meeting. They then issued a statement saying that they fully support the Pac-12 and they are fully committed to being in the Pac-12. So they have a statement out now basically saying that we're not looking to go anywhere. What does that mean? I have no idea. Colorado was formerly in the Big 12, left the Big 12. Are there hurt feelings there? I don't know. Is it 4 schools, right? Is Oregon, Washington, and the Arizonas, are those the schools of choice? So some of this stuff turns on its head, but it kind of goes from minute to minute. Who's in a power position? Is it the Big 12 or the Pac-12? Timo told the Orlando Sentinel tonight that he expects the Big 12 to, quote, be aggressive, but he obviously did not provide specifics, Mike. So every 4 minutes, there seems to be another moving part here that has to be considered.
Yeah, you would think of those schools that we're talking about from the Pac-12 that are mentioned coming to Big 12. The one that would probably want to stay pat the most would be Colorado. They were already in the Big 12. They left here. They don't want to go back to their ex-girlfriend, right? That kind of makes them look bad. So I would think in their case, they'd probably want the Pac-12 to take some Big 12 schools and just solidify things out there, keep Washington and Oregon at home there, and maybe add, like a Kansas and Kansas State or whatever it is. So I can understand that. But these guys, I don't know how long they're going to have to make this decision, right? Some of these things, I guess, you got another year before we get to that July 1st deadline again, before we may hear some things. But how long are these conferences going to wait for schools from the ACC? So I think that's the next really big domino, is what's going to happen with Clemson and Florida State and Georgia Tech and Virginia and North Carolina. Those are the schools that you're hearing the SEC and the Big Ten really want to poach next.
Yeah.
Now, the grant of rights and all that stuff may cost them too much money to do right now. Are they willing to wait another 10 years until that contract's up? Or will there be enough teams in the ACC that want to leave to go to these big schools, to these bigger conferences, where they just dissolve the ACC altogether?
Yeah.
And that's all going to be a money thing, too. So who do you think moves next? If Notre Dame doesn't want to join a conference right now, and they keep saying they don't, does the SEC make the next move, or do they just wait this thing out and are they happy with Oklahoma and Texas for now?
To borrow a phrase from Ice Cube, I think it's now big bank take little bank at this point, right? I mean, I think if I'm at the SEC, right, so, we thought we had that power position. Now that you add UCLA and USC, which I don't even know if I think that's are those two better than Oklahoma, Texas? I mean, I don't know. I guess you could debate that. But what stops the SEC from calling up Miami and Clemson and Florida State and saying, hey, come our way? And maybe I'm completely naive to this, Mike, but here's my thinking on some of this stuff. The contract from a television standpoint at the ACC is owned by ESPN. They have the ACC network. Who's the SEC contract with? ESPN. So they can't figure that out amongst the two of them. Right, there can't be some sort of stipulation or out clause or something that they can figure out to offset these things because they're going to be ESPN properties. Because what this really is, Mike, is this is Fox versus ESPN. Fox is Big Ten, and that's their network, and that's what they're going after. And SEC is now going to be on ESPN, right? And so you tell me ESPN can't figure out how to get some of these schools into the whatever conference they want them to be in out of another conference if it makes that much better, right? Like, I feel like ESPN could figure that out if that's what the SEC wants to do. So I don't know if the SEC is done. I think the ACC probably has to figure out where they are next. I saw that they were thinking about sharing their revenue differently. Basically, the bigger schools, the Clemsons of the world, get more than the Virginias of the world. But it's really going to be who blinks next, right? Can Brett Yormark be aggressive and get 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 of these Pac-12 schools to say, hey, listen, you don't know what's going on over there. We have a stable conference. We have a TV contract coming up. Get over here now while you still can. Get in with us, because that whole thing could fall apart. If Oregon and Washington decide to leave for the Big Ten and they change their mind, that whole thing falls apart. Get over here now. We're stable. We've got teams. We've got contracts. We're moving forward. Can he be aggressive at that point? Or can the Pac-12 be aggressive and figure out a way to keep things together? I saw one wild, crazy rumor that the Pac-12 and the ACC could form some sort of a merger where, it's one big conference. They play East and West Coast, and basically the winners play in the title game at some point, right? Could that happen? Who really knows? I guess it really boils down to who can be the most aggressive right now, and which school is going to grab the money first because they want to get it while they still can. One of the unknown dominoes here was UCLA was almost going broke. They were literally in a financial crisis, and going to the Big Ten saves them or gets them a bunch of money. So who's the broke school out there right now that's like, you know what, that's not a bad idea, let's go there? Because I think that begins the dominoes. But if anybody tells you they know what that is next, they are absolutely lying to you, because I don't think anybody does.
Well, do we think that the Pac-12 and the ACC are going to shake hands again on another agreement? Like
the alliance. Yeah, oh, sure. Shake, wink, wink.
Can either one of them trust the other at this point? I don't know. But when we're talking about the Big 12 expanding now with all these West Coast schools, and maybe one day the ACC falling apart, maybe the Big 12 going after some of those, you're looking at a conference that goes from coast to coast right there.
Yeah.
And we're already, the way it is set up right now with us being as far east as we are, and if they added these Pac-12 schools, you're already coast to coast. So I would enjoy a conference like that. It's a national conference. You're talking about having games all day that matter. Like right now, if UCF's not playing and there's a game between Cincinnati and Memphis and it means something in my division, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to watch it for a little while at least. So now if you're telling me I have football games on all day that matter to UCF, I love a conference like that. I have nothing wrong with a little 10 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night to wind down and watch a game that matters. That would be a fun time for me.
All right, let me lay some scenarios out there. You tell me which of these you like or you prefer. I think we all agree the worst case scenario is the Pac-12 convincing Big 12 schools, a couple of them, if that's Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, whoever, to go over to the Pac-12, right? So if schools leave the Big 12, I think we all agree, right? That's the worst case scenario for UCF?
Yes.
Okay. So here are the next possible options. Big 12 stays intact, and we grab 4 schools. It's Colorado, Arizona State, Utah. What do you think of that scenario?
It's not bad, but you're not giving me Oregon, you're not giving me Washington, right?
Not yet, no.
Which those schools are probably going to end up in the Big Ten. Obviously, it's not happening right now, but one day, if Big Ten wants them, they got them, basically. And if they stay here in the Pac-12, you're looking at them at all times, like, when are you guys planning on leaving, right? Because they want to get out. And everybody wants to get into the Big Ten or the SEC, because those are going to be the two that are going to get paid $100 million each, as opposed to maybe $30 million. It's a big difference we're talking. So you're telling me we add those 4 schools, yep, and that puts us back up to, 16?
16,
after
yep.
Texas and Oklahoma leave?
Yep.
That's not bad, but I think you need to add more to that.
Okay, all right. Well, then my next one. So I can give you the Big 12 as is plus 6. So those same 4 plus Washington, Oregon.
Yeah. We're talking a little bit more.
That's better than the 4, correct?
Yes.
All right. So my next one.
It gives you more balance out west.
Okay. My next one, Big 12 plus 4, except instead of maybe Colorado and Utah, that 4 is Arizona State, Washington, and Oregon. So you get Oregon and Washington in the 4. So how do you rank those 3 scenarios? So 4 without Washington and Oregon, 4 with Washington and Oregon, or 6 with obviously all of the above?
I'd prefer 6, just to give me more teams, a little more stability. If you're going to give me just 4, I'll take Washington and Oregon. You can keep, I don't know, who you want to take out, Utah and Colorado? Go ahead. You can keep those.
Yeah.
Because I think Arizona and Arizona State probably going to stick together. Those are the bigger schools anyway. Utah's only been in the P5 for a little while. They could fit right back into the Mountain West if they had to. So give me Oregon and Washington for sure over those 2, but give me all 6 of them, and I'll feel a lot better about this conference. And it automatically, I think, jumps to number 3 without even question over the ACC and any other conference you want to put behind SEC and the Big Ten.
All right, let's say Big 12 and Pac-12 are still doing this little dance, right? Nobody's blinking. We don't really know much. And the SEC gets in there and they raid the ACC. They take Clemson, and let's say they take Miami, right? ACC comes calling Timo and says, hey, you guys want to come to the ACC? Would you want to go to a retooled ACC now, which, again, will have some upheaval, will have some openings to fill, or would you want to stand firm in an unsecure Big 12, not yet knowing if you'd be swallowed whole by the Pac-12 and kicked out altogether?
Well, the ACC, I think, is going to get torn apart, too. You're telling me that you're only losing Clemson and Miami. I think they're going to lose Clemson, Miami, Florida State,
Georgia Tech,
North Carolina, and Virginia.
Okay, fair.
So what I'd like to see is, if that happened, let's say Virginia and Georgia Tech and go to the Big Ten, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, go to the SEC. Give me Virginia Tech, give me Pitt to go up there, against Cincinnati and West Virginia. They have a nice little rivalry there. Give me who else am I missing? Not Wake Forest. Wake Forest is going to be another school like
Duke.
That's going to get left behind, right? That's kind of like I guess Vanderbilt's moving up, but Wake Forest would be the one of these leftovers like Stanford or Oregon State, right? That nobody really wants. Give me NC State, I guess.
Okay.
It's a big time state school, and give me the 4 or 5 remaining from the ACC and build a 24 team conference where is basically what the Pac-12 and the ACC are talking about, where you have 12 on the East, 12 on the West, and then you have a championship game at the end of the day. You could even have a mini playoff when you have that many teams.
Okay. So you're leaving Duke out?
Yeah. I know Duke basketball is fantastic and all that, but Duke wouldn't be my top 4 pick, probably.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's where this gets squirrely, right? Is even the basketball side, right? You think about some of that stuff. There's rumors Kansas was hoping or thinking they were Big Ten bound, but again, right now the Big Ten seems to be telling people they are set. They don't see another school they can add that's going to appreciably up their TV contract. So they're like, hey, why bother adding these extra schools? Why split more revenue if we're not going to get more revenue? So Kansas seems to essentially have really no issue there. Mike, should Timo be calling all of these conferences? Should he be working back channels? Should he be calling the Pac-12 and saying, look, I don't know what y'all are doing, but whatever it is, UCF's a part of it? Is he calling Brett Yormark and be like, Brett, welcome to the team, buddy. Make this happen for me? Is he calling the ACC saying, listen, you know what, we're prepared if you need us? And is he calling the SEC being like, listen, if you want to get some Florida schools, don't take these other has-beens. Come take the future of college football. Should Timo be working the phones on all conferences right now?
I don't see how it could hurt. And really, go after the top 2. Go after the Big Ten and the SEC. Make them tell you no. You don't get the hot girl to go out with you if you don't ask her, right? That's never happened before. She's not just going to come up to and everybody always, we joked for years about people saying, oh, just join a conference. I'll just go over and apply. Well, it turns out that kind of is what happens sometimes, is you just call and you apply. I think that's what happened with USC and UCLA. They just went to the Big Ten and said, okay, we want to join. We want to get out of here. And they took them. Now, they might tell us no, but you got to ask, right? I'm scared of the SEC and Big Ten locking us all out. And then if that is the case, and we're just left in a lesser division of football and college sports altogether, that's going to be a big-time bummer, man. I don't even know how to react to that.
Yeah, college basketball is going to get a whole kind of squirrely on this one. But so in your position is right now, we as a UCF fan base, if Timo called you, was like, yo, Mike, what's up? Listen, I need some help here, buddy. You're like, Timo, here's your deal. Sit tight. Get your boy Brett on the phone. Get him calling everybody in the Pac-12 schools. Get him to our spot now. Lock him in and let it all play out. That's where you would put all of your negotiating eggs, right? Is, hey, let's stick tight, but let's be aggressive trying to get these schools.
Yeah, right now we have to at least solidify where we're at. Right now we're in the Big 12. We have to make that conference as strong as possible, and as long as that conference doesn't completely fall apart, we'll be okay for a little while. I just wish all these realignment stuff would let's get it all done once, in one swipe. Why do we have to do it year by year, 2 teams at a time, 1 team here, 1 team there? Just redo college sports altogether. That's what they want to do. They want to make it, instead of having, how many Division I teams are there right now? 120? They want to cut it down to 65, 64. Just do it. Cut it all at once. And, the teams that are in, the teams that are out, they're out. But stop doing this dance every 2 years and, these 2 schools are talking to this conference and this. I've had enough of that. All right, just get it over with, and then let me know where I stand afterwards.
So here's the life of realignment talk right now, Mike. This is on Twitter right now. 1 hour ago, Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports, who's relatively plugged in, is on some sort of a show here, CBS Sports HQ, reporting that the Big 12 was deep into negotiations to land Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado, also eyeing Washington and Oregon, reporting Notre Dame is staying put for now. 11 minutes ago, so this is at 10:39 Eastern Time, CBS Sports confirms that the ACC and Pac-12 have discussed a loose partnership that would include a championship game in Vegas as a way to get ESPN to pay more. So literally within 46 minutes of each other, you have, hey, these schools are all going to, hey, maybe there's some sort of a loose partnership. And that seems like the ACC is driving that, Mike. So this is the crazy thing, man. There's just so much info, and it's so freaking hard to keep straight what's actually true, what's not true, what's rumor, what's not rumor, because really nobody knows except for TV execs, and I feel like that's really the answer at this point.
Well, the ACC is probably in their best interest to keep the Big 12 weak, right? If they can partner with because the Big 12 is a big threat to the ACC, I would say, and if they can make a partnership with the Pac-12, that's probably the best thing the ACC could do at this point, and not let the Big 12 strengthen itself any further. Right now, a lot of people probably see the ACC just as good as the Big 12, or even better than the Big 12 once Oklahoma and Texas leave. So they got to keep themselves above the Big 12 for as long as possible. And I think the Big 12 rating the Pac-12 would make them better than the ACC. So I wouldn't be surprised if those 2 conferences do come up with some kind of alliance here and try to shut us out, which I don't know. What happens then?
Where do we go from there? Where do we go from there, right? We can't, at that point, we can't go tuck our tail between our legs and go back to the American, right? I mean, that ship has got to be sailed at this point. Is it just us? Is Houston or Cincinnati or BYU, are they out? What becomes of? I mean, that's the scary thing. You said earlier about Washington State and Oregon State and and Cal and some of these schools that may get boxed out. But there's a legit scenario where we are one of those schools, and that's the crappy thing about all this. It's like just when we thought we were there, we crossed the threshold, we got into this vaunted Power 5, and this was our time. Now it's all of a sudden like, wait, hold up a second. There's still some jeopardy here. I don't know what the percentage of that actually happening is, Mike, but I mean, I don't know where we go if the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and ACC and we get booted out. I legit don't know what the next step would be.
Yeah, if the Pac-12 took teams from us, we were, what would happen is they'd go back to the American and say, give us, we're taking Memphis, and maybe then they add Boise and a couple other schools, hopefully not the Cows, and get back to 16 teams or 12 teams at least. But it'd be Conference USA 3.0. It'd be American 2.0. It would suck. Basically, it would suck. We would be seen as a lesser conference like we've been for the last forever. Since we started joining conferences, we have not been in an elite conference yet. We thought finally we made it. I sent my tweet last week that said, we finally got invited to sit at the adult table just in time for them to run out of food. And that's how it feels right now. It sucks, man. We were all ready to party. UCF is sending out tweets. 1 year from now, we're in the Big 12, and I'm not even excited until I know exactly what the Big 12 means. Because right now, it could be anything right now. It could be a very good conference, like we've been discussing, or it could be falling apart at the seams, and every day and every hour with every update that comes in changes, and it gets kind of frustrating.
Well, even that, I mean, while we're on the doomsday scenarios, right, the reality is this is the next step for these two, power conferences probably breaking away and forming their own, the breakaway from the NCAA. It'll basically become like an NFL farm system at that point, right? And their own playoff, their own system, their own everything. At that point, we're boxed out again. Right now, we're in this lesser group of teams, and what does that look like? Is there a whole nother playoff system for that? And we're probably not. I think people thought that was 5, 10, 15 years down the road. I mean, we're legit on the doorstep of the SEC and Big Ten being like, let's just get out of here. Like, let's do this together. You've got yours, we've got ours. We'll figure out a playoff system between these schools. Maybe we'll let one school from each of those other ones in, but even if we stay in this alleged Power 5, it's now a Power 2. So just when we got there, the entire mathematics on the entire thing changed, which is just beyond maddening at this point.
Yep, that's the most frustrating thing about this. I mean, we've come so far to get here, and we've talked about it a million times. The only school in college sports to go from Division III to Division II to Division I, independent, to the MAC, to Conference USA, to the American, to finally get to the P5 and the Big 12, and now that doesn't even mean anything anymore. And we have to now another obstacle to climb. We have to go from this to somehow get into the SEC or the Big 10 and be part of that new college football, which right now I hate. It sucks because we're not included in it, but if for somehow I would become the biggest hypocrite in the world if we were invited to the SEC or the Big Ten and we broke away. Oh man, the amount of trash talking I'd be saying to the cows how they're in a lesser division of football, it would be incredible. But right now, I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
Here's the fundamental question, and I think I know my answer. I think I know yours, but that's why I want to ask you. Is this going to change what you do Saturdays in the fall at 3:30? If UCF's about to kick off a game, if we're playing Temple, we're playing Rutgers, we're playing Oregon, we're playing, Kansas State, we're playing, South Carolina State, it doesn't matter. Saturdays at 3:30, UCF's kicking off. Are you still watching?
I'm still watching right now because definitely this year for sure. It's just something that's been ingrained in me for the last 20 years. There was a time in my life, the first half of my life, I did not care about college sports. I was Yankees, Giants. I'd watch some college sports here and there, but didn't really care. Growing up down here in Miami, I'd watch the Hurricanes. Yeah, I'd root for them to win, whatever. They were playing Florida State every year. They were both number 1 and number 2. They were exciting games. But if Miami lost, whatever. It wasn't going to hurt me. Then I finally get to college. I have a school of my own. Now, for the last 20 years, something I never thought possible, I love UCF, watching UCF football more than the Yankees or the Giants. I've seen the Giants win Super Bowls. I've seen the Yankees win World Series. It's happened where the Yankees are in the playoffs, a playoff game, and UCF is playing against East Carolina on a Friday night at the same time, and I have the UCF game on the big screen, and the Yankees are getting the little TV with no sound. Never would I have ever thought that was going to happen, but that's where we are now. But if you're telling me that UCF now is going to be in a lower division of college sports, they're not going to be what matters. They're not going to be in the Big Ten or the SEC. They're not going to be in those primetime games. They're not going to be in the playoff, any of that stuff. I got to tell you, it's going to take a big hit to college sports for me. I don't know if I can get excited about it. For what? Just to say we can beat Tulane? I don't know. I won't know exactly until that happens, but it's possible. It's possible I may just stop watching college sports if it gets to that point.
Yeah, I mean, because I think if there's a breakaway, will I be compelled to say, hey, I want to watch, Michigan play, Rutgers? Because at that point, it literally has no bearing on anything that have to do with my team, right? In today's construct, even though we've kind of been in the outside looking in some respects, the larger national landscape has a role in what could happen to us, right? There's upsets that happen. You go, okay, the number 2 team loses. We play this team later on. They just won. We can get a power win. If we become basically separate from that, then all that doesn't matter anymore, right? It's just, to your point, it's just watching Miami and Florida State as a 10-year-old being like, oh, it was a good game. See you later. Because it has no impact on us, right? So I think that's where I'm curious how many fans who are outside of that, 24, 48 team structure, whatever that is, really care, because if that's not your school, then nothing that happens there has any impact on you. Now, do the other three, conferences or whatever, 2 conferences at that point, or 1.5 conferences, I don't know, how does that feed in? Is there still options and pass available? I think that'll be what'll kind of guide some of my interest. But it's going to be tough for me to say in 2 years from now, when we're in, the Pac Big, Coastal, whatever it's called, and we have no entry into the playoff, and it's Saturday and it's 4:00 and the game's on. I still feel like I'm going to turn it on and watch it and root for the Knights. Will I be running around like I do now in my house and jumping up and down and yelling at the kids and screaming at the TV? I don't know. I don't know how much I honestly don't know that I'll know until that kicks off. But I do think the larger college football element of it, I won't care anymore, because there will be no direct impact on me. So I'm not going to give a crap about UCLA playing Iowa State or Iowa or whoever, because it's not going to matter to me.
Yeah, I'm not watching any of those schools. Forget that. if they break off and we're not included, I am watching 0 seconds of any of those. I'm not watching Alabama. I'm not watching Florida State. I'm not watching Florida. None of that. I don't care. Right now, as it is, I don't even really watch much of it. I watch the UCF games. I watch the games that affect UCF. And if I'm home and there's nothing else going on and there's a big game on, I'll put it on. But I really don't care much about the other schools. So that for sure I will not watch at all. But my question to myself would be, am I still watching even the UCF games if they're in a league where really it doesn't matter? A second-class league that I don't know, man. I'd have to put myself in that situation. I don't know if I'm going to care as much. Will I still have season tickets? Something like that. I don't know. That's a tough one. It's a tough one if we get left behind like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to sort out. And that's the thing, is how long does this take, right? I mean, you would think, to your point, if something's going to happen, it needs to happen relatively soon, or there's going to be a long pause, a year-long pause of us playing a season with some of this stuff kind of, over our heads and the clouds kind of, darkening the season. So who knows when and if we'll get clarity on it. Again, there's a lot of positive scenarios for UCF to continue forward and at least stay where they are and hopefully get on an even playing field. And there's a couple of doomsday scenarios where this all of a sudden becomes odd man out and UCF's looking for something to do. All in all, Mike, I mean, the reality is college sports, as you know, it is over. It's done. It's not the college sports it was. It's not the, the granddaddy of them all. It's not the, the pomp and circumstance. It's not the rivalries. All that stuff's out the window. I mean, when UCLA, it's funny, when UCLA and USC, decided they're out. It's odd that that's the final nail in the coffin, because I think you'd seen it coming. But college sports as it is changed, and that sucks, because you're not going to see some of these fun games, and you're not going to get a chance to see, the Appalachian States of the world beat the Michigans, or the UCFs beat the Auburns. You're not going to get to see that stuff anymore, because you're never going to get that equal opportunity, and that's ultimately what really sucks about all of this. And other sports are going to be impacted. I mean, college basketball is probably the next biggest sport. Does that change at all? It just, college sports, as you know, it is done. It's over. It's, do you adapt and do you follow on with what happens next is really, I guess, where we're all kind of left at.
Yeah, it's professional sports now. I mean, the kids are getting paid. They have their own deals now with big companies, NIL deals. The transfer portal is wide open. The kids are not at schools for 4 years. They're here for 1 year and they're gone the next. So it's completely different than when it was. I wish somehow. What is going to happen with basketball? They're not going to have if they break away with 2 conferences with only 48 teams total. That's less teams that are in the tournament now. So where they're going to make it a 20-team tournament? There's still a lot of questions to be answered here. I don't know what they do. And if schools like Duke and North Carolina are not part of that, but yet they still have some of the best basketball schools in the country. You got a separate tournament for those schools that are not in the Big Ten and the SEC? I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be either there'll be football only rules, or what do you do? What do you do with the Gonzaga, who's not going to be anywhere near a conference for any of this crap, but they're still a perennial power, basketball program. Will they do what they do today, which is just 64 of the best teams on tournaments and and they, the at large for those two big conferences are greater than others. I mean, again, the whole thing is just, it's solving a problem that really didn't need to be solved, right? And really what it solved is more money for schools, and I guess in some respects that is a problem for others, but it's a complete just black cloud over college sports, which sucks, right? Because there's so many good things about what that could be. But either way, I mean, this is again Tuesday night. By the time you hear this, I'm sure UCF will be in a brand new conference that just started yesterday, and we'll never have even mentioned it tonight, and we'll look like idiots. But this stuff moves pretty quickly, so we'll do what we can, Mike. A couple of other quick UCF news and notes. 4-star linebackers Andrew and Michael Harris, Mike. They're from a local high school in Lake Brantley. They are committing to school on Wednesday, it sounds like, and all of the crystal ball prognosticator types are saying that UCF is going to be in play for both these two. So they will be potentially, if you believe all the things you're hearing, be coming to UCF, Mike. 2 4-star linebackers won't obviously play this year, but they're twins. So UCF has a history of twins, Mike. 2 twin linebackers. That's exciting.
Yes, and very good football players is exactly what we need. They may be the highest ranked recruits we've had in a while. I think top 300 players, and 2 of them at that. So, and at a position where we need the most depth and most help right now. So that's a great thing if it happens. But like you said, it's Tuesday night. They're not coming until Wednesday. Hopefully nobody shows up at their house as we're speaking right now with a giant bag of money that we can't match.
That's fair. That is definitely a fair thing. Next item up, Marlon Williams, Mike, USFL champion. Don't know if you saw that, but his Birmingham Stallions won the inaugural whatever trophy they call it in the USFL, Mike. So USFL is a new league, obviously. First year they got to the championship game, and he and Jordan McCrae are both champions.
Hey, the league made it through the whole season without having to shut down. So I guess that's a good thing. I did not watch any of it. I did see a couple of Marlon highlights throughout the season, and he looked like he was having a fantastic year. People couldn't tackle him. He was scoring touchdowns every week when I saw it. So good job out of him. He's a champion again. He's used to winning a lot of football games while he was here at UCF. So happy for him, and hopefully this can lead to something else where he can keep his dreams of the NFL alive.
What's a better conference, the USFL or the Big Ten?
I couldn't even tell you the names of the teams in the USFL, except for actually I don't even remember the name that he just
Birmingham Stallions. Yeah, everybody's favorite team.
Yeah, I don't know about USFL. Is the XFL back too? Are they starting
next year? They're supposed to be back next year. The Rock is bringing that league back.
All right. Yeah, because we can't have enough football that nobody cares about.
Well, if that doesn't get you excited for either of those things, what will? Obviously, we will try to keep everybody posted. I mean, there's so much info out there. You can probably listen to every single podcast in the world, every single writer and tweeter and message board poster. I don't know who knows what around here, but keep your eyes peeled. Obviously, as soon as things are in play, we will figure that out. But coming up next, we've got a really cool interview. So don't go anywhere. We're the Sons of UCF. We're brought to you by Gordon and Partners, by the way, for theinjured.com. And we'll be back right after this.
This is UCF head football coach Gus Malzahn. You're listening to the Future of UCF podcasting with Adam and Mike on the Sons of UCF. Boom.
This week, Mike, we have caught up with a guy who caught a lot of passes at UCF. He actually doesn't believe how many passes he caught. That's how many he potentially caught. And I don't know if I believe it either, actually, but what are you going to do? Tyson Hinshaw is our guest this week, Mike. Before we get to Tyson, again, don't forget manscaped.com. Promo code Sons of UCF. You can get their Performance 4.0 package, 20% off. There's a lot of goodies in there, including that Lawnmower 4.0. Don't forget to get to their website. Again, 20% off with Sons of UCF promo code. Free shipping a part of that as well. You're not going to be disappointed. I know you missed Father's Day. I don't know if you give out 4th of July gifts. Who knows? But you know what's right around the corner is as summer vacations are coming up. They're coming to an end soon. You want your man to look good. Make sure he's got everything he needs. Back to school after that. Maybe you got a high school senior. He's got to look good for the ladies. Manscaped.com, 20% off with promo code Sons of UCF, Mike. That's where it's at. That's really where it's at.
Yeah, let's face it. It is hot out right now. Everywhere you go in Florida, you're talking about 100 degrees. The less hair you have on your body, the better. Especially in certain regions, you don't want to be getting all sweaty and nasty down there. So you got your little Manscaped. You clean yourself up. You feel fresher. Only good things can come if you start using this Manscaped. And you can save 20%. Put Sons of UCF in the promo code and thank us later.
All right, Tyson Hinshaw, Mike. Great career at UCF. Played with 3 different quarterbacks, 3 pretty decent quarterbacks, including Daunte Culpepper. Great career, a part of a lot of good memories, and we've had a lot of guests on. And I feel like top 5 storytellers, Tyson Hinshaw is on that list. Top 5 guest storytellers. I feel like Tyson Hinshaw. Every game we mentioned Eastern Michigan, and somehow a cool story came out of that game. Who would have ever thought that? I think Tyson Hinshaw is top 5 Sons of UCF interview storyteller.
Yeah, I love Tyson. We had him on for the Alabama 20-year reunion show last year with Kruzek and Schneider and Borlegi. He was fantastic then, and he was just as good tonight.
All right, well, don't just take our word for it. Why don't you listen to him right about now? All right, let's bring in Tyson Hinshaw now. First off, Tyson, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight and talk about some UCF football.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me, and happy 4th of July, I guess, yesterday. So I hope you guys had a good 4th of July, safe 4th of July, and had a good time.
Yeah, we sure did. And speaking of good times, I usually start off these interviews on a high note. I usually ask the person how they became aware of UCF and why they came to UCF. But you're probably one of the only people that I can't ask that question to, because obviously you were already aware of UCF. So how much was UCF in your life kind of growing up? I mean, obviously, when you're a kid, you grow up with your favorite sports teams and whatever your parents and your family's kind of into. How much of your early life, your kind of your younger years, was UCF a part of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, a little unique experience for me. I was exposed to UCF early on. My brother was being recruited at the time, Darren, and I'll never forget when Mike Kruzek and Manny Messinger, who I'm sure you guys know well, yeah. They flew into town that we live in called Punta Gorda, so a small airport. They flew in actually on Manny's jet or airplane, I guess, and I remember them coming to the house, and I met them, and I didn't really know much about UCF, or really wasn't even thinking college football at that time. I was, 5 years younger than my brother, so I must have been seventh grade, I guess, at the time. So I was just being a 7th grader, but I remember the moment. I remember when they were there, and ultimately my brother ended up going to UCF. So I remember early on when he was a freshman, before he started playing, I think early on first couple games, I would drive around with my dad actually and listen to the games on the radio. We weren't sure if he was going to play, so I don't think my parents were ready to take the trip up to Orlando, and that's kind of how we kept track of the games and what was going on. And I think early on in his redshirt freshman year, he started, and then they started going to games. Then obviously I started going, and next thing you know, I moved my, coming into my junior year, we moved to Lake Mary, and obviously much closer here. So went to games often and got to meet all the coaches and a lot of the players, go in the locker room and those type of things, which was a lot of fun for me coming through high school. But so I got a lot of exposure late, and I would say a fair amount of exposure early on, but, unique ways. I tell my kids, I listen to the radio, listen to the games, and they can't even understand that that even happened back then. But yeah, that's my early exposure, I guess.
What's that experience like being in the stands? Obviously, the quarterback, everyone loves him when he's playing well. Everybody hates him when he's not. What's that? Do you have any memories being in the stands and maybe people like heckling your brother or yelling at him to do something different? Do you have any vivid memories of that experience?
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, UCF fans are, as you know, passionate. And back in the day at the Citrus Bowl and early on, when we were, or actually late in 1AA, we had some great games there. And the good thing, I mean, he was a pretty good player, so that there weren't a ton of boos, but they'd get on him every now and again. They'd usually bounce back pretty quick. I mean, he was a great player. I loved watching him. You know, I walked around with my chest out because I was proud. He was my brother, and he did some amazing things. But yeah, listen, UCF fans are never quiet or you know, afraid, I guess, to tell you how they feel at the time, and they'll pick you up though, and then cheer for you, you know, the next play. So I always felt that about UCF fans. They're always extremely genuine, and there's not a ton of boos at the time, but they may get you straighten out your ship a little bit and get playing a little bit better. So yeah, we had great fans here. So I loved going to those games, and it was always fun watching them play.
So your brother is arguably the best quarterback in UCF history to that point. Him and Darren Slack, two of the best ones. You're a quarterback in high school too. When you're coming to UCF, are you coming in thinking you're going to play quarterback, or they let you know right away you're going to be receiver?
Well, at the time, Culpepper was there, so yeah, he's pretty good. Pretty good player. But no doubt, my brother, you know, Darren Slack was fantastic, and my brother took it to another level. I went there as a quarterback, and you just never know, you know, in today. And I wanted to go, and I wanted to go and compete. And I mean, Daunte is still a good friend of mine today, so I'm so glad I went there and got to know him. And Jason Thorpe was also there at the time, two of my really close friends. In fact, I've got a lot of friends I stay in touch with that I played ball with, but definitely Daunte and I talk a couple times a year at least, see each other a few times as well. But it really wasn't until I, you know, obviously wasn't getting a lot of playing time, so I would kind of mess around, start running some routes and playing a little DB actually, and then Gene Chizik was the one that kind of started it, because he had told Kruzik that he wanted me to play a little DB. So I started playing a little DB, and then next thing you know, Cruz said, "Well, why don't you run some routes?" And then what happened was, it was the spring game going into my sophomore year where I played quarterback and receiver, and just kind of the way it got split up is we only had 3 receivers, so to go quads for that spring game, they needed another one. I said, well, I'll just do it. Well, I had like 8 or 9 catches in that game for the half that I played. The other half I played quarterback, and then after that game, you kind of meet with the coaching staff, kind of get ready for summer and plan it. And they basically said, hey, you know, Cruz basically said, look, we're gonna move you to receiver if you're good for that. And I said, you know, whatever's best for the team, whatever I get on the field, I'm ready to do it. And Vic Penn was coming in, so it worked out great. Vic came in and kind of transitioned over to receiver, and had to earn my stripes over there, and learned a ton from Sean Beckton, who was a fantastic mentor to me and really helped me on route running. You know, I knew the game from a quarterback's position, and I knew the holes in the defense, but really needed to learn how to be better at running routes, and learned a lot from him. So that's kind of how it transitioned. And then, you know, I hung up my quarterback shoes and put on my receiver shoes, and you know, kind of rest is history.
There's a little bit of a size difference in that quarterback room too between you and Daunte, right? What did you weigh, like 160 coming in?
Oh yeah, I was 160. It's funny. I was telling my son that he's a junior and he's small built like me, and you know, what's the saying? It's not the dog. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And you know, I was always a big believer. If you're out there competing, really doesn't matter how big you are. I was never afraid or scared or anything like that, so it never bothered me that way. I used to just mess with Daunte because he'd never get on the scale. So we were like opposites. He was the big guy that was kind of too heavy, and I was the guy that was too light probably. But yeah, we used to have a lot of fun around that for sure.
You know how tough you were taking hits. We've seen it so many times in the games. But when you first make that transition to receiver, was there maybe a practice or something where you took a shot and say, maybe this is not the best idea for me?
You know, I never got hit. You know, first of all, quarterback, you get blindsided, you get tattooed pretty good. You know, you're not protected. So there's plenty of times you get hit as a quarterback that I still don't think quarterbacks get enough credit for that. But there was one practice, one hit that I can remember, and that was I was running a middle screen, so we called it was Honda was the route, so it was a H middle screen, and I came, I kind of stutter stepped and came down the line, and I caught the screen, but I was running, thinking I was going to catch it and run. And Josh McKibben, who was a defensive tackle, had read the screen, which I obviously didn't know, and turned back. And, he's probably 285, and he hit me where I didn't know where I was because, I didn't see him at all. So as soon as I caught the ball, I just got leveled. I thought to myself, holy cow. I don't want that to happen anymore. But that just happens in the game. It's, again, nothing that made me hesitant. After that, I kind of just popped up and caught my breath and said, okay, next play, and figured it out. Like I said, or like you said, I was pretty tough in my day, and I was never worried about going over the middle or anything like that. Trust me, there's the Georgias and the Floridas and the Purdues and all the people, Nebraska, all those guys we played, South Carolina, it's some big boys over there, but you just got to figure out how to not allow them to get an even shot on you, and you typically fend okay.
Well, let's not sell your quarterback play too short. I'm looking up your stats, Tyson. 1998. I've got you listed going 1 for 1 on a 21-yard completion. Do you remember that play at all? Do you remember what that pass play was?
Let's see, 98. I'm trying to remember. Was I 1 for 1 that year?
You were 1 for 1. Only one pass, one completion with 21 yards.
Man, I don't remember that play. Now, 99, I had a couple passes that
99. I got you.
I know what it was. That was the actually that's the play I bust Daunte with, because that was the throwback to the quarterback against Bowling Green, and I threw it back to Daunte, and he got tackled at the 2-yard line, and I always busted his chops because I should have had a touchdown in that game. But yeah, I remember in '98, that was the first pass I'd ever caught or thrown. I think my memory's right, but it was a lateral, so it was a run more than it was a pass. But I had to catch it, turn and throw it back to Daunte, and he ran for I guess it was 21 yards. And yeah, he didn't quite score, so I always bust him up for that because that should have been my first touchdown. So yeah, I do remember that play.
Well, you do have your first touchdown, 98. You 2 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Do you remember your touchdown reception?
Oh yeah, I remember that vividly. So Thorpe, Jason Thorpe was the quarterback then, and this is actually a pretty funny story because it was late in the game. Obviously we were winning by a bunch, and I go in, and Thorpe goes in, and Thorpe didn't play a lot. And we looked to the sideline, and I could read the signals because I played quarterback. So I looked at it, and I think Cruz calls 44 Zeus, just a zone run, just running the clock out. And I looked at Jason was a senior, and I looked at Jason. I said, he shakes his head. He's like, yeah, we're not doing that. So we call a pass play. He hits me on a short little out, and Cruz is screaming on the sideline because we're up by a lot and we're throwing the ball, right? So complete it. The next play, same thing. He's yelling to run the play. So we call another pass. This one I get tripped up, or so I fall, goes incomplete. And again, Cruz is going nuts on the sideline, calls another run. So there's 30 seconds left in the game by now, and we run 205, and I was inside. Leister was outside. He got jammed up pretty good on that play, and I was running inside, running a post, and Jason was rolling to the left, and he threw it back kind of across his body to the middle of the field, and the strong safety was Brian Urlacher. So he was the guy guarding me, believe it or not. So I jumped up at the goal line and caught it over him. And Jason, I always joke that say we literally made Brian Urlacher's career because the NFL moved him from strong safety to linebacker. But yeah, true story. It was awesome. It was so much fun, and I was happy for Jason. It was his last play of his career, and he was a a warrior, and if he played in any other team, he would have got some serious reps. But obviously, playing behind Daunte just wasn't going to happen. Wasn't in the cards. But he came in a couple times against Georgia Tech, played great. Some other games came in and did a fantastic job. And he works same company I work for, and yeah, I keep in touch with him often.
Well, so hold on. What does Cruz do when you guys get to the sideline? Is he celebrating? Are you guys doing push-ups? What was it? What was that talking to like?
He was not happy, but he was kind of laughing. I think by the time we got off, and I think he said, "You know how much, explicit word I'm going to get when I go to the sideline here," because he was embarrassed. Obviously the coach doesn't want to try to run up the score, and it was I guess New Mexico or New Mexico State. I can't remember which team it was.
New Mexico.
One of those two. New Mexico, yeah, and he said, "I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the last time we ever play that team." And yeah, I don't think they were too happy at the time, but he just said, "Look, these guys were trying to get in and play," and I think the coach was okay with it, and it all worked out. But yeah, he let it go. He kind of laughed about it, but I don't think he was too happy at that moment.
So you mean to tell me you and Thorpe ended the Lobos Knights rivalry right there on the spot? That was it? It was all over after that?
That was it. That was it. In fact,
what could have been?
He said he said, looking back, he wished he would have jumped up and hung on the goalpost and sat up there and just stayed there until someone throws him out of the game or something. He said we should have celebrated more than we did, but it was a lot of fun.
You mentioned all the big teams that we played back in those days, Florida, Purdue, South Carolina, Alabama, all those games.
Auburn,
a lot of them were very close games, and a lot of the time we would go down on the first drive and score a touchdown. What was it about Cruz's preparation in those games that we were always seemed to be on the board first early in those games, and how come we couldn't maintain those drives?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think, first of all, he's phenomenal coach, and being able to coach the game like he did, I kind of thought it was just standard. I thought this is just what everybody did, but the older I got, I realized that wasn't the case, especially with my brother who coaches a lot, and how much he learned from Cruz and how he did things. It's definitely not how every coach coaches, and he really wanted you to understand the reasons why we were doing what we were doing, and the concepts of what we were doing. And there was a lot of read routes, a lot of changing routes, where you had to know as a receiver as much as a quarterback needed to know based on coverage and roles, etc. But we would game plan really well against these teams, and we knew where we could hurt them. And, we always felt like we had the talent to play with anybody. We just didn't really have the depth, because they just would wear on you. They were typically bigger. Obviously, the closer you get towards the ball, they were bigger than us. Our starters typically held up pretty well, but, the D-line struggled, I think, at times, just because we didn't have that depth to rotate in to keep that same level. But the starters typically did really well. And you're right, there's a lot of big games that we went down. I remember Florida, we went down and scored first. Auburn, a lot of games. Virginia, I actually fumbled at Virginia Tech, so we would have if I wouldn't have fumbled that first drive. I remember that still. But a lot of these games we would go down and score, and it was kudos to Cruz and his game plan, and knew exactly how to attack them. And I think a couple things. I think people would underestimate us a little bit and didn't realize maybe how good we were, and kind of woke them up a little bit when you put some points on the board. Nebraska was my first that was the first time I ever really saw Daunte play at a level that was beyond everybody else. I mean, he was always great, but in that particular game, I didn't play a lick in that game, but I watched from the sidelines, and that's where you could tell that the kid was different. And, we were beating them at halftime, and they were one in the nation at the time. They were ranked number one. So Scott Frost was the quarterback, actually got benched in that game, which was great. But I don't know if Scott and I ever talked about that, but he came back in later. But another guy came in. They obviously ended up winning that game. But so many of those games were so close. Auburn was so close. South Carolina was so close. Purdue, even Florida for a lot of that game was close. So we hung in there pretty well against some of these big teams, and I remember that when we finally beat Alabama, I thought, man, we didn't win that game. I went through really 3-4 years of big games in the SEC that we just couldn't get done. And, I would have probably had nightmares for my career, for the rest of my life. And I'm just glad it worked out against Bama in that game for sure.
Yeah, some of those ones looking back on, we should have won, especially I think the Auburn one, 98 Auburn game. We controlled that entire game. The first half, we completely dominated them. And talking about how well Daunte put against Nebraska, I think that had to be his worst game ever, right? I think he threw 4 interceptions that day. Obviously, the bad snap, that wasn't his fault at the end. But how much of that game do you still think about looking back on it?
So I played special teams in that game, I was never as sick as I was probably, other than Georgia maybe, like the next year. Yeah. Actually, Georgia Tech, what am I thinking? Georgia Tech was the worst. Georgia was the next worst, just because I played so much. So Georgia Tech my senior year, Georgia Tech my senior year, Georgia Tech my junior year, Georgia my junior year, sorry. But that Auburn game my sophomore year was just horrific because we had them beat. I remember we were going to a bowl. The bowl people, they were supposed to go to the Hawaii Bowl, and that snap just really wasn't that bad of a snap. Daunte should have handled it better, but just it was a freak where it was low to the right and kind of went around his body, and he couldn't pick up where the ball was, and he couldn't jump on it. And then for them to get, I think it was a 4th and 22, if my memory's right. They had a quarterback that I think he was wearing like 20, if my memory's right. It was something weird. But we had they got that big play on 4th and 25, and then we came with Chiz called a corner blitz, and T. Rice was playing safety, and I remember the corner blitz, and they threw like a hitch outside, and T. Rice just had to push him out, and I think he just misjudged the guy, and he kind of missed him, and the guy goes 50 yards or something down the sidelines and scores. They kicked the extra point, and I think it was 10-9. And then I think it was a minute something left with that. And I remember running out. That was the loudest I had ever heard a stadium at that Auburn game when they'd gone up late in that game. And I was it was a terrible feeling. But that was bad. Georgia was the next worst. And then Georgia Tech was probably the worst for me. So those 3 for sure.
Well, you were obviously a quarterback.
Because we had Georgia beat. By the way, we had Georgia dead to rights. We got hosed in that game big time because we had them beat. That was a bad one.
Yeah, I was coming there next. Well, let me start here though. Obviously Daunte leaves in '98. You obviously played quarterback. Obviously quarterback in your family. How much pressure was on a guy like Vic Penn to beat the guy after Daunte? And as a quarterback, could you recognize how much pressure was on him to sort of fill the mammoth shoes that were Daunte's?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think we just wanted to win, and he wanted to come in and do well, and we all just rallied around him. He was a scrappy player, great player, and just tough kid. And he came in, and we're excited to have him there and to compete. And yeah, you look at the history of the quarterbacks at UCF, and where you got Slack and then Darren and then Daunte, you got 12 years of quarterback play that and even few in between. Just phenomenal players that have played at UCF. So yeah, you have big shoes to fill, and but we're supporting them, and we're ready to get it done. And he had a fantastic junior year for sure. I think he had 3,000 yards that year or close to it. I can't remember exact, but he earned the position and was a competitor, and we rallied around him, and we had a great receiving core that year with Lee and Kenny and me and Frizzell and TD and some others, but some good running backs, and Chiz was there, and great defense. So we had a good team that year. So I would say there was pressure, but I think we just all wanted to win, and whatever we need to do to get the job done.
Well, let's talk about Georgia. So that game now dubbed the burglary between the hedges. And I want to set up kind of the final sequence. It's sort of been a weird game. Borlegi misses an extra point, which obviously ends up coming back to haunt. But we get the ball back, and you mentioned Vic, right? 1:41 to go. There's a 4th and 3, a 16-yarder to Kenny Clark. Then you catch a 16-yard pass. Then Vic runs 22 yards. We're at the Georgia 20 at this point. Spike the ball with 22 seconds left at this point. We could go for a field goal, or obviously we could roll the dice and continue on offense. What decision did you want to do on the field at that time? Did you expect Cruz to go for the field goal?
So here's the stuff people don't know. So Javi was sick before that game started. So, and he had a cold, and somehow he ended up taking like NyQuil or some type of medication before the game. So he wasn't his normal self, number one. And in that game, if you look back, he didn't punt. The reason why I know he didn't punt is because I was a personal protector, and we never got one punt block in my career. And I was back there calling it and hitting these dudes that were twice my size. And Georgia specifically, that is huge inside linebacker that was coming right up A gap, and I had to block him. And late in the second quarter, Flynn was punting that game because Javi was kind of out of it a little bit because of the medication he had taken. So we ended up getting that block tipped because we got a penalty, and they ended up lining up and kicking a field goal, if my memory's right. On that, but that's another story. So what happened there is, normal Javi all day. Let's just line up and kick it and be done with it. We said, hey, let's just take a shot in the end zone, and I was all for it because I'll put my money on Kenny on a jump ball in the corner of the end zone all day. I'll take that risk, and let's do it. So he did it. We called Miami X go, I think. I was playing H on the right side. I was coming through on a shallow cross. I was actually wide open. If he dumps it, I probably could have scored, which is kind of crazy. But he throws it up, and so I had a good look at it. And, I mean, he threw the ball out of bounds, so the ball was completely uncatchable by far. I mean, it was out of bounds. It was like it hit the hedges. And somehow they call Kenny on offensive pass interference. It was the worst play I'd ever seen in college at the time. I could not believe that they had called that play at pass interference. And, we looking back on it, we should have just taken our chances probably. But at the time, I was good with it only because of the uniqueness that I knew Javi wasn't his normal self. And, kicking the 32-yarder or whatever it was, field goal, wasn't a guarantee at that moment. And so I was good with it. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, now, man, I wish we'd have just tried for that extra point or for that field goal, because I had already picked out the hedge that I was going to cut a little piece off and take home with me. Like, it was coming with me. So, and man, that one was disappointing. That one hurt. That one hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, I think he actually, besides the extra point, he also missed 2 field goals that day too. So I think we've asked Javi and Coach about it, and it had to have played a little factor into his decision making that day.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, so you come in as a quarterback, you move to receiver, you're playing with Daunte, then you get a chance to play with Vic Penn. Then the next year, Penn gets hurt, Schneider comes in. As a wide receiver, does it change things when you have different quarterbacks every year? You have to make different adjustments, the way these guys throw the ball, or it's kind of just be in the right spot at the right time?
Not really, except I need to make sure Ryan could figure out where the center was to get under it when he first came in, No, I'm kidding aside, but I had faith in all the guys, and it stunk when Vic went down. But Ryan was a competitor, and I saw Ryan play. We always called the scout team kind of that game between each other. They call it the toilet bowl. They play every year. I played in it. Everybody gets playing in, and you kind of see the young guys play, and he was really good in that game. And everyone's like, that kid's going to be all right. Ryan never threw a hard pass. He threw an accurate pass, but a very catchable ball. So when Ryan came in, it was like, okay, next man up. I had to help him a little bit with the signals. He still denies that, but trust me, that happened. He was the type of player that could come in and immediately compete, and everyone rallied around him because they believed in him, and he was a competitor. I mean, he was an ultimate competitor. I would say athletically not as gifted as all the other people we talked about. I mean, Vic was an incredible athlete too, could run. He was really quick and fast, and much stronger than people thought as well. But, Ryan just was truly a quarterback and just sit in the pocket, and he let everybody else run. He'd kind of make jokes about it. He's like, I'm not running anywhere. I'll make you guys run. But, you loved it because he'd stay in that pocket and deliver the ball. So, yeah, I think we probably changed the play calling a little bit to help him. But, he was a quick learner and quick study, and he started getting it pretty quick. Obviously, with the Bama game that came up after that, after he was in and he was getting chewed out during that game and kind of woke up. But, I think the time was right. If it had happened earlier, like in the Georgia Tech game that we lost, which was, again, the worst one. But if it had happened that early in the season, it might have been worse for us at that point. Vic was definitely the better player for us. So the timing of kind of when Vic ended up getting hurt and Ryan was there, I think worked out to his benefit for sure.
What about having some of these other receivers? You mentioned some of them by name, but having a guy like Kenny Clark on the other side, that has to make your job so much easier, yeah?
Oh, it was great. Kenny's was great because there was tons of attention on Kenny. Nobody cared about me. Even with my stats, they were focused on Kenny, and rightfully so. I mean, Kenny was a deep threat. He was a big, strong, physical receiver, great player, and they'd always have their best guy on him. I used to, him and I roomed together, so I would always kind of joke about it. I'm like, well, this guy's going to play against you, so who do I get? And he would always have to go against the best guy on the team for sure. But yeah, I mean, a guy like him, like I said, Jimmy Frizzell, he was great. Obviously, Charles Lee early on was fantastic. We had TD. We had a bunch of players that really could compete at a high level. Sia Burley early on, I learned a lot from him, even playing quarterback, just how he played the game. But Kenny had, if you were to draw up a perfect size receiver, he was 6'2", 6'3", just all muscle and could run. But there's some things I could do a little bit better than Kenny, so I'd always mess with him about that stuff. But he was still a good friend of mine. And by the way, his kids are like phenomenal athletes and basketball players, and I mean, I think they're committed to Illinois or something. And I mean, they'll be playing pro at some point here in the short future for sure. Phenomenal players.
So you mentioned a few times, Tyson. Why was that Georgia Tech game the worst experience for you?
Oh, that's another one. I'll mess with Kenny. I'll say, Kenny, just fall down. Late in that game, so Cruz kept telling us on the sideline, be ready for X around pass. So we had a play where X around is a reverse pass where I'd throw it, and Kenny ran a V route, so he'd come in like he's going to block and then go out kind of in a 45-degree angle, a 90-degree angle. And it was late in the game in the fourth quarter, and he calls X around pass, and we were on like the our own 10-yard line. Or something like that. Maybe it was the 9. It was. I just remember getting the ball and I was in the end zone when I took it from Vic. And I think it was like a 50-yard pass or something. I don't know. I threw it as far as I could throw it, and Kenny caught it. And if Kenny just falls down, game may be over right there. But Kenny's doing his thing and starts to run away from the kid. And you can see it on film. He starts to leave the kid, and the kid reaches out and dives and punches the ball out at the same time. And that was when O'Leary was there and Gotze was there. Daunte was the quarterback, for God's sakes, at the time, and punches the ball out, and it was sitting right in front of their sideline, and Kenny couldn't grab it, and the guy behind him recovers it, and next thing you know, they go in. I think they score. They go down and score. We get the ball back, go 3 and out, and then they score with like 20 seconds left to win the game. And man, it was just one that, I mean, we had one. Sorry, I'm getting an Amber Alert here. It's like reminding me right now of that terrible memory. But we had that game. We had that game won like on the scoreboard, not like Georgia where we just need to kick a field. We were winning that game and it was over, and we were so ready and we worked so hard for that game because the year before we got our butts handed to us, and we worked out all year for that, all summer, everything just for that game. You know, being ready for that game, obviously the season, but really that game. And we had them right where we wanted them, and we just couldn't finish it. We learned a lot. You know, I think that's why we ultimately won the Alabama game. But man, that was a tough pill to swallow that night for sure.
You went on a stretch that year. The first 3 games, Georgia Tech, Northwestern State, Akron. You don't get in the end zone. Then you reel off the. Let me just run through these stats for you. You went 7 for 90 for 3 touchdowns, 12 for 206 and 1 touchdown, 14. 129 for 2 touchdowns, 8 for 71 and a touchdown, 6 for 136 and 2 touchdowns, 8 for 102 and 2 touchdowns. Tyson, that sounds like you're in a zone there. Is that what that feels like? You know, as a player, were you just in a zone at that point in time? Just, you know, with all the receptions, the touchdowns, were you just feeling like, man, there's nothing I can do wrong in the field at this point?
Well, trust me, there's plenty I could still do wrong. But for me, I think it was more probably a confidence thing. I think. I really started I would say I got really comfortable playing that position at that kind of that stretch that you just mentioned. I think early on I came in, I know what I could do, but I don't know that I had as much confidence as I probably should have had. And I think when Ryan came in too, I kind of felt like I needed to maybe do a little more, and I think it showed up a little bit on the field. I think it's kind of funny. I've never looked at it that way. You just ring it off there, but yeah, it was a pretty good run there, and it was exciting. Obviously, I think the team as a whole played really well as well. I mean, it's just not me, but I think overall, just for me, you know, what happened to me there, I think I got really comfortable and confident and better at playing the game at the position. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say it was kind of a fun time for me during that run for sure. It didn't feel like I was working. It kind of came extremely natural and really started getting comfortable doing what I was doing.
Yeah, your first game with Schneider, you went 12 of 206 for a touchdown. All right, so his first start, I mean, you were certainly his go-to.
Was that Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, Eastern Michigan, yep.
Yeah. That one I had to – Kenny was out that game. He had a sprained ankle. He couldn't go. And – we were up there, and I remember that. So that's an interesting game because their coaches came to Manny actually and said, "Hey, where's Hinshaw? Because that's not him." And they had thought we like changed jerseys or something because they're like, "No, that's not the guy we see on film. He's smaller than the guy we saw on film. The guy we saw on film is bigger than that." And so Manny, I remember Manny told me before the game. He said, "Hey, they don't think that's you." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "They think we're switching jerseys around in warm-ups." I said, "Are you kidding me?" Man, I was pissed. I went that game fired up, and yeah, I remember that game specifically, and a lot of plays in that game for sure. Yeah, we kind of lit them up, and actually that coach came up to me after the game and made the comment to me, and I said, "Yeah, you won't forget next time." Even though it wouldn't be next time, right? But yeah, that was a cool game, cool moment for me.
I love the Eastern Michigan trash talk. And before it gets all to your head, I got to bring this up. Eastern Kentucky, you threw an interception, Tyson. What happened? Can you explain how you're throwing interceptions against Eastern Kentucky?
Oh, man. I don't even remember that. I threw a pick?
You did, yeah.
Somebody must have ran a wrong route. I'd have to see the film.
Fair enough.
It's so funny. I tell my kids, I'm like, yeah, I've never even dropped a pass ever. No. I'm sure who knows? I can't remember. It must have been at home if it was Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, it was home. You were 0 for 2 according to the stats with 1 INT. So whatever it is, you tried it twice and it didn't work one time.
Hey, sometimes you got to take those bad memories and erase them from your mind. So I may have succeeded in that one. I don't remember it. Not saying it didn't happen. I'm sure it did.
Well, you caught a touchdown in that game, so you're net even on that one, I guess, in the stats.
It worked out. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So was there any trash talking during that game after you heard about that, or was it just what you said to the coach at the end?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had a fair amount of trash talking. I do in every game, just because it was fun. I mean, that's just what you do. Not disrespectful. It was more joking and fun than anything. But you would get, you get the write up on every player. So I know typically everyone's parents' names and kids' names or brothers and sisters, and you'd have fun with them. And, especially kind of later during that streak you were kind of talking about, I would, I'd have some fun telling people they should go down because they're not going to be starting next week when I'm done. And they kind of laugh because, again, I wasn't a very big guy. But by the end of it, we were friends, and they were like, all right, you're all right, Hinshaw, you're all right. They typically would, we'd shake up at the end of the game, and trust me, the trash talking goes both ways, but it's part of the game that's fun. And for sure it's something you should be good at, or at least know how to do, because it's hard to survive out there if you can't do that.
All right, so in the middle of that stretch where you're on fire is the game in Alabama, and we've talked about it with you before, but that game was full of runs, right? So we were down 24-10 with about 2 minutes to go before halftime, before we went on a 98-yard drive. Take us back to that drive, and then, of course, the helmet touchdown catch.
Yeah, man, that was an emotional week for me. That game I had circled in my kind of my calendar as the game for me, and it separated my shoulder earlier in practice. That crazy fluke thing. Didn't know if I could play. Couldn't lift my arm before that game, and got a couple shots and got taken care of. And the trainers did a phenomenal job with me. Mary Vanderhand was amazing. Got me ready so that I could really move my arm and go play in that game. And that particular drive, yeah, we get up and then they kick it down to us, and we fumble, if my memory's right, or we kind of muff the kickoff, and we're at the 2-yard line, and we broke from the sideline. We was huddled on the sideline, but it was a TV timeout, and we'd run out there. I think I may have shared this before, but we're lined up, and their defense is lined up, and they start playing Sweet Home Alabama, and they're dancing, and they just scored 2 in a row, and the place was rocking. It's homecoming, and the guy in front of me is like, Hinshaw, it's fixing to get ugly in here. And I thought, oh man, I hope he's wrong, because I mean, it was rocking in there. And I think we called 67 switch, and I caught like a 12-15 yard pass the next play, and kind of got it going. And they had a couple penalties in that stretch, and it was a long drive all the way down. And then ultimately we went trips right, H flag, and they were in man and switched to zone, and the play was pretty much dead. For some reason, instead of running to the corner and get covered, I kind of just curled up, and Schneider just zipped it in there. Kind of jumped up and got sandwiched. Next thing I know, my helmet's off, which is like kind of the worst thing you'd ever want to happen in football. But when you're in the end zone and you've got the ball in your hands, it's kind of the greatest thing, because now they can't flag you for a penalty. So I was having some fun with the UCF fans with my tongue out on the side, heading towards the sidelines with those fans going berserk. That was an awesome moment, and just, again, glad it all worked out, and we came out on top for that game, because that moment specifically was one that I'll never forget.
Yeah, so the celebration was kind of wild. I think you shared this with us after we recorded last time, and it was just us on the phone. Take us to that plane ride home. How'd you guys celebrate?
Yeah. So, it was a late takeoff, and my shoulder was in bad shape. So I had taken some medication just to kind of get on the flight, and and I was there, and we were having fun, but more just kind of clowning. But it was kind of late, and people were tired too. But the coach, Mark Daniels, was coming around showing us some of the film, some of his play-by-play, and we watched some of the plays. I remember, I can't remember if it was on someone's laptop or something, but that was kind of cool. We were having fun doing that. And then my parents had walked up. My mom and my dad were on that flight with the team, and my mom they give us like sandwiches and chips and stuff, so you can drink Gatorades and stuff, so you're hydrated, you got food and everything. That's the best part about travel, by the way, is you get food all the time. It's great because they always want you fed. They want water in you. They want Gatorades. It's kind of awesome. But it's pregame meals and like meals on the road is like the best. Other than the police escort to all the games, I still miss those to this day. Those are the greatest moments ever. But anyway, going back, my parents. My mom had said, "Hey, here's some chips," and I'm like, "No, Mom, I'm good. I don't want chips. You're gonna want these chips." She had a couple little bottles in there for me. Of, I think it was vodka or something, and she said, because she knew I was really banged up, because I mean I couldn't even like sit in my seat. So I don't know if it was as much celebrating as maybe just self-medicating a little bit. It wasn't anything crazy, but it wasn't like I was drinking a bottle. But I had one or two drinks, which kind of helped the pain on my shoulder for sure. And then when we got there, when we landed at Sanford Orlando Airport, we couldn't believe all the fans are there and the TV and radio and everything. That was pretty exciting. Kind of pain went away when you saw everybody. It was an awesome moment. Again, one of those I'll never forget.
Take us to that last game. Obviously, a tough loss against Virginia Tech. You go 10 for 116, another 2 touchdowns. But at the end of the game, obviously, the realization that your UCF career is over. Probably not the most fun memory of your life. But what were your emotions at that point when you walk in the locker room and you recognize you got to take off that jersey for the final time?
Oh man, that was hard for me. I think that game specifically, it was obviously a big game, and we wanted to look. I tell my kids this, and teams I've coached, I'm like, I don't care if we lose. You want to compete and do the best you can and show up. And I think there was some things we did well in that game, but there was a lot we did poorly. And it's too bad because we were competing with them. I specifically had a fumble in that game. It was pretty bad, but again, it was an effort play, so it wasn't a mental thing. But I think after that game was over, I think they were ranked 9 at the time or something. But there was such an awesome crowd, and it was kind of over, and you kind of take a breath and realize this is it. And it's emotional. It was senior night, beginning of that game, obviously, and then it's it. You're done, and you don't wake up and get to go to practice again. And it's hard to explain. And I've gone out to UCF and tried to talk to the players, and I tell my kids and all the kids I've coached, like, you don't realize how quick it's. I don't want to say it's taken from you, because it's not that it's taken from you. It's going to happen, but the ending is so abrupt, and it's just over. And it's hard, it's hard, and it's happy at the same time. I was obviously really proud of my career. I thought I did some things maybe that I didn't even know I could do going into it. And, I was proud, but at the same time, I was just sad that was it. And, I wasn't really going to play with that team again, that my senior team that I was, went to battle with all these guys, that was it. That's the part of it that's the hardest, is it's the teammates and the camaraderie that you make and get with all the players you play with, that really you never forget about. You really do build lifelong friendships and memories with those guys, because it's a unique thing that happens each individual year, and each team's a little bit different with different dynamics, and you're different, and it's something you take with you and you never forget, and you appreciate it. But at the time, man, it's kind of abrupt, and it took a long time for me to take that uniform off. I remember it wasn't one of those I rip off and try to head out and see what's going on outside. I took my time that night for sure.
Well, since then, obviously, UCF's been through a ton of ups, a ton of downs, and a ton of ups again. As a proud alum of the program, now 22 years later, looking back on it, what's been your view or your I guess your idea around how UCF has performed since you left? Obviously, some down years, some great years, and now that are on top. Has it been cool to see that ride kind of play out and recognizing the role that you and your teammates had in getting UCF on that sort of foundation to be where they are today?
Without a doubt. I mean, it takes a lot to move the needle nationally. I think in the state, people kind of knew who we were. We were always the stepchild back then, and that's okay. We had not played that long, and it makes sense, right? So I get it. But to see things happen now, I will tell you, I always felt like it could happen faster, and I think that's more wishful thinking. It just takes a long time to build the program. I can tell you, I wish we had cameras showing like where we worked out in our locker room and the things we had compared to what the kids have today. It's just not even close. Even 10 years ago, what they had compared to what we were dealing with and kind of the things that we had. Great example, when we played Georgia, their athletic budget for uniforms and shoes and stuff every week was what our budget was for the entire year. So, not even on the same playing field that we were competing against these other teams that just had weight. Money changes a lot of things. And I think over time, as the university gets older and more money gets pumped into the program, and obviously all of the guys that came after me and have done the things that they've done to continue to elevate the program and the national everyone knows who UCF is now, which is awesome. So, when we were playing, they'd be like, wait, where's that? Even shortly after I graduated, no one really knew. Some folks that were close and understood college football did, but most of the people didn't really know. I think you could say, UCF is made it as far as a national name. I think now we really got to take it to another level, and I think the Big 12 is going to help without a doubt with that, and the teams we're going to be playing and some things that we're going to be able to do. So, the best is yet to come. The special moments are going to happen in the bounce house, I think, in the years to come here with the teams that we're going to be bringing in there and playing against. It's going to be an awesome environment. And the guy, I don't want to say jealous. I'm happy and excited for the guys that are there, and Coach Malzone and the staff and everyone just really trying to do it for Orlando and do it for because we've always played with a chip on our shoulder. I'm not sure that's ever going to change, because I think you never forget, when you're called, the little guy or the guy that can't get it done. Just look at the bowl game last year, right? That felt good. And it's funny because Florida fans, I'm friends with a lot of them. They're like, oh yeah, well, that really didn't matter or didn't count. Or, anytime anybody loses that we beat, it didn't really matter, didn't count. It's kind of funny how that works. But, I'm proud to be a part of it, a small part of it, but a part of it. And, I think everybody that goes there, the more they learn about the past and some of the things that we had to go through, I think they'd appreciate their time there even more. So anytime I get a chance to talk to those guys or have a conversation with anybody, it's fun to talk about it, because it's important that they know kind of what happened before them, so that they know how lucky they are and how important every single play and every single game is.
Tyson, the game of college football is completely different today than it was 20 years ago when you were playing. I know you have a son now that's getting close to the college age. Now they have this NIL stuff where players are getting paid. What's your whole view on that? Do you agree with the way it's being done? Do you think there's some different things they could have done maybe to fix kind of where this is headed? Because it seems like some teams may have a superstar that's going to get paid $10 million, and that may cause a little jealousy in the locker room.
Yeah, I'm shocked at the amounts. I think some of this is just pent up demand, or I mean, this should have happened years ago. And a lot of these big schools, it was happening. Who we kidding? When I went to this is a funny story. When I went to Tennessee Titans camp, I was on a bus with all the rookies, and there was a guy from I don't remember who it was, a guy who played at Ole Miss, and they were talking about getting money here, there, whatever, and I'm like, what? Wait, you got how? What are you talking about? And they basically, some money would find them somehow, and then they asked me to, rattle off my stats. So I told them my stats, what my senior year was. He's like, "What, man? You'd be taking a pay cut to go to the NFL? You're crazy." So these guys are, I mean, they've been making some money, I think, for some time. I think everyone kind of knows that. I don't know how it's done or how it happens. I think this whole NIL thing, first of all, I think the kids should make money. I think the dollars they're talking about seems a little crazy to me. I think there needs to be some structure around it. I don't know if limit's the right word, or you figure out a way that everybody gets a little bit of that as well, some percentage of it, so that, because to me, the offensive guard is just as important as the quarterback or receiver or running back, because it doesn't work without them. And I think there's a way that they could maybe try to figure out how to do it where it's a little more team oriented, or spread the wealth a little bit, as well as to maybe some other sports. So I think there should be a little bit more boundaries maybe set up. But some of the things I'm hearing, I don't know if there's truth to it or not, but kids getting paid or getting promised to get paid way before they've committed, etc. It just doesn't make sense to me, because I don't think that's what the spirit of it was set up for. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's somebody that comes in to try to straighten that out a little bit to balance it out. Because it's going to be an advantage for obviously some of these big schools and the ability to get some of the players. The reality is they were going to get the players anyway, so it's probably not changing that big of a deal as far as big players going. They were going to end up going to Alabama anyway, or Tennessee, or wherever. So I'm not sure if that changes as much, but the bigger thing is these kids are kids, and you don't want them wasting it. Hopefully they got financial advisors set up or somebody to help them, because you can only play football so long, whether you're in the NFL or not, and you can only make so much money. So hopefully they figure a way to invest that or put it aside, or some type of a program for these guys to hopefully set them up for long-term success and not just a short-term gain for them.
And you stayed local, right? Are you close by UCF? You get to go to a couple games a year?
Yeah, I'm here in Lake Mary, so I'm not far, about 45 minutes. And yeah, we typically get out there. My kids aren't playing Pop 1 now; they're in high school, so I was coaching them the whole time. So I was busy up until last year, and kind of sat back and hung my shoes up. I think I'm going to coach a little bit and help some of my friends out that's got some kids in the Lake Mary program. So I might go out there and help them this year a little bit. But yeah, we typically make it to at least a few games, if not more. My kids enjoy it. My wife went to school there as well, so we like going back and seeing some friends and just taking it in. Again, the games at the bounce house and the fans are just amazing, and it's always a fun atmosphere, and we always have a good time. So
you have any games
for sure
circled for this year? You're planning on attending it?
I don't have any games circled yet, but we'll be there for sure. But I don't have any picked out, if you will, at this point. So we'll kind of take it as we go and figure out which ones we're going to end up going to, and kind of see how our schedule plays out.
Sounds good.
I know your brother was on staff last year. How cool is it to have him back in Orlando and sort of to have him home and near you and the rest of the family?
Oh, it was great. I mean, having him there was awesome. He's a good football coach, and I think hopefully he'll end up. He really wants to end up at UCF some form or fashion, and I think he will. I think it was great for him to come back and meet a lot of the people that are currently around the program, and obviously his success he had, and he's probably one of the most successful players / coaches, right? So you take him and Becton and some other ones like Fisher is out there and some others, but he's up there as far as, guys that actually, played at UCF and have gone on to coach in college football. He's up there. So hopefully I think one day he'll end up back at UCF and he bleeds black and gold and thinks the world of the program and all the boosters and everybody around it. So I think it was good for him to get back and see a lot of those same folks and some new faces and build some relationships. So if things work out and he's fortunate enough to come back and coach here, I think UCF will be better for it. And I think he'll have a great time too, because ultimately I think he'd love to live here. My family's here. My brother's here. My parents are here. So, it would be an ideal situation for him. So I think, who knows? We'll see what the future holds. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool to see him on the sidelines.
Right, you've been really generous with your time. So before we let you get out of here, we like to ask our guests any number of random questions. Could be music, movies, sports, just anything kind of off the wall, off the top of our head. So are you prepared to face these random, out of nowhere questions?
All right, let's do it.
All right, 4th of July was just this weekend. We had a big debate on the show here. What do you put on your hamburger, Tyson? What are your burger toppings of choice?
So always mayonnaise, mustard. I'm sorry, not mayonnaise. Mustard, ketchup.
Okay.
Okay, if I got it, I'm gotten pickles, lettuce, tomato. Love grilled onions. So if I'm like a burger fry, that's basically what I'm getting. Although I'll probably get the burger fry sauce. Not a big mayonnaise guy.
Good.
Some when I was a kid, but not really anymore. Of course, it's some cheese.
Sure.
Grilled onion, yeah. So every now and again, I get a little crazy. Maybe throw some jalapenos in there.
Nice.
Pickled, not like fresh, just pickled ones. I'm not that crazy, but that's probably what I would say. It's kind of my burger toppings of choice.
Mike and I both had a fried egg as a burger topping, and that got some backlash from people. What are your thoughts on the fried egg?
I like it. Why not?
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'm happy to try it. I love eggs though, so I could eat eggs on anything. But I think it would be great. I don't know that I do it only because I feel like when I'm cooking burgers, I'm never in a spot to cook an egg.
Sure.
But
yeah.
At home. But if I was at a restaurant, they want to throw an egg on there for me, I'd eat it. I got no problem with that.
All right, so we were at UCF the same time as you, basically. Hung out probably at a lot of the same spots, most of which are out of business now. But what was your favorite hangout spot? For us, it was like the Wing Shack or Liquid Cellar or Calico Jack's. You have one that you remember was the main one?
Oh, I'd say the Night Out Pub was my favorite. I mean, it was right there. Loved that. Liquid Cellar was good as well, late. But definitely probably the pub was probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I think Cellar's
that was a great burger too there,
Yeah.
Great burger.
Pub burger was good. All right, here's a little trivia for you, Tyson. You have your third. You're tied for third on this list of number of games consecutive with a reception. Do you know how many games consecutively you had a reception in your UCF career?
I should know that. I would say, it's got to be at least. Is it 15?
Oh, much higher than that.
Really? 19?
Much higher.
22?
The correct answer is 32. According to UCF Record Media Guide, you have a reception in 32 consecutive games.
Dang.
And
I don't know if that's right.
Well,
I might question that.
That's what UCF, this is what their media guide, receptions in consecutive games.
I'll have to look it up. Let's see. I would have had junior, senior. Yeah, I'm not sure that's right.
All right, so that's what they got.
But I'll take it.
There are three guys ahead of you. Two of them played with you, and one you know very well. Can you venture a guess at who those are?
Let's see. Frizzell's
correct. He is one ahead of you at 33, apparently.
Okay. Cy Burley.
Incorrect.
No, he was only there 2 years. Wait. You said they both played with me? Just one?
Both. So 2 played with you, and one you know really well. And if I tell you how, you'll know him. So let's stay with the one you played with. One more you played with.
Oh, Braden Marshall's up there, isn't he?
Brandon Marshall's not up there, no.
No? Sims Walker?
No. The correct answer is Charles Lee.
Oh, Charles.
And then, according to this, the number one of all time, Sean Becton, has 42. So it's
of course,
it's Becton, Sean, Lee, Frizzell, Hinshaw. That's the Mount Rushmore right there.
You know Becton. He's one of I don't know how many guys in NCAA history that threw a touchdown pass,
right,
caught a touchdown pass, ran a touchdown, and returned a kick for a touchdown all in the same game.
I don't know if there's anybody in the history of football that's ever done that.
It's pretty. Oh no, he did it. It's pretty awesome stat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Al Bundy's stat on steroids. Remember Al Bundy 4 touchdowns in 1 game. So what songs, what kind of music were you listening to before a game to get you pumped up?
Oh man, I've never been a big kind of music listener. I guess what was it back then? We had like CD Walkmans or whatever. I was just a big kind of focuser, just thinking through kind of what I was going to do, and at the same time staying loose and having fun, kind of cutting up and having a good time, trying to stay loose. But I'd say it's those. If I did have something on, it's to get me jacked or really focused. It's those corny things. It's the Rocky, it's the Balboa stuff. It's something like that, kind of motivational type music that I'd probably be listening to back in the day. Or quite frankly, whatever Kenny had on it and he was listening to, I'd probably be listening to. I roomed with him and was around him a lot, so I'm sure whatever he had playing, I was probably listening to and getting focused and jacked up about what we're about to do.
All right, this went over so well the first time. More trivia with Tyson Hinshaw. You are second in UCF history with receptions in a season. Most receptions in a season. You had 89 in that 2000 season. There is one former receiver ahead of you. Can you name who has bested Tyson Hinshaw for most receptions in a season?
That's Sims Walker.
It is, yes. He has 90. You are one shy of Mike Sims Walker. So somewhere along the line, Tyson, you dropped a ball that could have put you on top of the record book.
No, see what happened. There should be an asterisk there. This is what I always bust Mike on, is because he played a whole extra game than I did. So how is that the same?
Fair. Okay.
So I always bust Mike up. I'm like, Mike, look, what'd you have, 7 catches the last game? So I basically beat you by 6. Because if I play another game, I at least have another 7 or 8. So I at least beat you by 6 or 7. So you had to have a whole extra game to beat me. So
controversy. Okay.
Yeah. I always bust him up with that. But he was a great player and extremely talented. But again, I always like to have fun. I have a good time with my boys, having some fun.
All right, what's your favorite vacation destination?
Oh man, we love Baja Mar in the Bahamas. We've been there a couple times. Actually, we just took the family there a couple weeks ago. Had a great time. So we love that. We love Aruba. Those are like summer places that we've been to. But for the past, 6 or 7 spring breaks, we go to Park City, Utah, and go skiing and take the kids skiing, and they've loved it. And I've had some of probably the best trips. That'd probably be my number one destination is Park City.
A good skier?
Yeah, pretty good. I get out there. Yeah. There's basically nowhere I wouldn't go on the mountain. I just don't go some of those places like I used to, but I could ski anywhere on the mountain for sure.
All right. How do you, when you're getting dressed in the morning and you're going to put on your socks and your shoes, what is your order here? Do you go socks, shoe, shoe, or do you go sock, shoe, sock, shoe?
I go socks.
Okay.
Shoe.
That's the right answer. Only psychopaths go sock, shoe, sock, shoe.
Yeah. I would question anybody that did that. I would, yeah. Socks for sure.
And recently, controversy on the PGA Tour, Hideki Matsuyama let loose that he pours the milk in the bowl first and then the cereal. Is there any justification for doing that?
That's almost as bad as sock shoe. That makes no sense to me. That's should not happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a sock shoe guy myself, so sorry to break it to you guys.
No, you're not.
I am.
He is.
I don't know. It just comes naturally.
Do you always go right?
It slides right into the shoe. I always put my right foot first. Yeah.
Always right foot, and then in your shoe. So if if something happens, you're walking around with one shoe on and one sock and nothing on the other one.
That's right. At least I can hop around and stuff. You guys are just stuck with your socks, and now they're both getting wet or whatever it is. But at least
that's true.
I got one foot that's in the clear.
Yeah. All right.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't have thought there would be anybody that did it. You proved me wrong. Now you're not going to tell me you put milk in your cereal.
No. That's okay. Insanity. I never heard of that until the other day.
That's just taking it too far. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we just had 4th of July. Give me your Mount Rushmore top 4 favorite holidays.
Oh man, let's see. Thanksgiving. Well, Christmas I think's got to be one. Thanksgiving's up there for sure. I love a good Thanksgiving. Always a good time of year. Let's see. New Year's has never really done it for me. It's kind of cool, but I'm a more of a July 4th's a good one because it's typically around some type of vacation or beach and usually some cocktails and having a good time. Let's see, what else would I say? Now that I'm getting older, I love me a Labor Day. I love Labor Day. Love me some Labor Day. Seems like that's one that comes up and is always a good one. So, that's the one. That's September, right?
Usually the first week in September.
It kicks off football season usually. So, yeah, I love Labor Day.
That's a good one.
It's hard to argue with Labor Day, yeah, because it's right there. You're like, oh, the summer's over, man. We're back, and all of a sudden, boom, a Monday off. You're like, look at that! Out of nowhere, here comes Labor Day.
It's nice. Day.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. Tyson, look, you've been fantastic with your time tonight. We definitely appreciate you having some fun with us, sharing your UCF memories, and hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with you at a game this season. Hopefully we'll see you around the bounce house.
Sounds good, guys. Happy to do it. You guys take care and be safe out there.
Okay, sons of UCF, both of you, you are the father.
And boom, we are back. Tyson Hinshaw was fantastic as always. Big thanks to him. Again, a lot of fun stories, Mike. Eastern Michigan, who knew that one riled him up a little bit. Just a lot of good memories. And I love talking to those guys from that era who were just on the cusp of UCF being great, but just couldn't quite, crack over the top there. And to hear them now talk about the program today with pride, it's really cool to hear.
Yeah, a bunch of games that slipped away back then. Imagine if we had pulled out all those games. If we beat Nebraska and Auburn and Georgia back in the late 90s, we may already be sitting in the SEC.
We're going to the Big Ten. All right.
Right? We did get the one against Alabama. Tyson was a big part of that one. But if only we could have had a couple more, who knows?
All right. What we have a couple more of this week is Cows of the Week. If you're new, what we do is we find something that made us laugh, something stupid, something idiotic. We make fun of it, and we do so in a manner that disrespects our neighbors to the west, which are the cows, Mike. And I'll let you take the first crack this week. Who are your Cow of the Weeks? Cows of the Week.
I love it.
Multiple weeks, whatever.
I love it when the cows make it easy on me, and they're the cows themselves. So this week it is none other than Athletic Director Michael Kelly. Your South Florida Bulls. Believe. So with all this news of conference realignment coming up last week, Mr. Kelly took it upon himself to send out a couple messages to Cow Nation.
Very nice of him.
One of which the dominoes are falling.
Very nice of him. Yep.
right? Dominoes are falling. So he's leading these guys on, making them believe that news of USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten is somehow going to lead to the Cows becoming members of, I don't know what he wants them to believe, the ACC, the SEC. He has these guys so wound up and delusional, it's ridiculous. All to sell what? A couple, maybe another set of season tickets? And then he's getting into it with his own fan base on Twitter. Guys are sending messages saying, you never called me back. Which, by the way, if you send a message to Terry Mohadri, is he obligated to just call you back the next day and discuss and tell you exactly what's going on with the program? Or is it because there's only about 4 Cal fans where I guess he can do that with each and every one of them? I don't know. But this guy is – I'm not saying he's making promises he can't keep, but he's definitely using this to his advantage to maybe make a couple extra bucks with it. We all know the Cows are not going anywhere. They don't have a stadium. They're just now building their indoor practice facility. They have no success, on-field success in football ever. They've never, no championships to their name. The only thing they have that they hang their head on is we play in a professional stadium, big deal, and we're located in Tampa, which is a big market in Florida. But nobody else cares about that, and they're going to be stuck now in the American playing FAU and the Rice Owls, and that is just their destiny for the next, hopefully forever, until they shut the program down. But Michael Kelly is the Cal for, I guess, just dealing with Cal fans in this situation.
I like how you went double owls there with FAU and Rice. Yeah, listen, I have no remorse or no care for the Cows, but we are obviously in a Power 5 structure, and we are sitting here saying, man, oh man, things are going to get bleak. I mean, you think about the schools like the Memphises of the world and the Cows and the FIUs, FAUs. I mean, that gulf just got so much wider that you're not. I mean, you're sitting there hoping that one of these conferences decides, hey, we have to expand. Let's move to Tampa. And this is the thing I think people are forgetting. It's not about geography anymore. It's about brands. It's about what brands can we bring in that jacks up our TV revenue a little bit more. And I can't see the ACC sitting there going, hey, you know what we need? Man, we just lost Miami, Clemson. But you know what would move the needle? Somebody get the Cows on the – like, I just don't understand how in any logic of life that they listen to that and they go, hey, yeah, we have a unique an opportunity here. That's where the ACC is going to go. They're going to say, we're going to get gutted. Let's not try to gut another conference. Let's go raid the group of 5. I just don't see that as an option. And I feel bad. Well, I don't feel bad for poor Michael Kelly, but I mean, you can't win for lose here, right? I mean, you've got, you're trying your best with the bad options and all the decisions that were laid out for you 20 years ago that he's trying to fix. And if we're going to be honest, Mike, he's trying, right? He's trying to do an on-campus thing. He's trying to build, new facilities. He's obviously got the practice situation, but I mean, it's just the poor Cows fan just need to put out the pasture or something. It's just not working.
Yeah, all 5 of them. I don't know. I kind of, well, maybe I am enjoying this. Maybe I do want to see them get their hopes up, just to have the door slammed in their face, which is kind of what feels like it's happening to us. So whatever bad happens to us, I want 10 times worse to happen to them.
I agree. Yeah, it could not be better to see them just hinging on everything and realizing, wait a minute, we have no chance here. Huh? My Cow of the Week, Mike, I don't have a specific person. This is just a genre of people. And go to your social media feeds wherever you want to, and you can find some of these idiots who are lighting fireworks off in like their living room, people lighting fireworks off in their bedroom in their house. Some of these people who would just have no an understanding of how to actually execute a firework ceremony or display. I don't understand. Every year, Mike, you'd think someone's like, hey, I'm in my bedroom. Should I light a firework? I don't understand how someone gets to yes as that answer. Every year it boggles my mind that somebody can't figure this out.
Yeah, and not just like 6-year-old kids.
Grown-ass adults, yes.
Yeah, that's the issue right there. High school kids, college kids, even older than that. I don't know. Is it worth it for them to get their 1 million clicks on 1 million views on TikTok for a video like that? Maybe to some of them it is. I don't know how else to explain it.
How pissed would you be if you walked in the living room and your dear wife was about to light a Roman candle on your kitchen table? Like, what would you even respond to at that moment?
I don't know.
I mean, your kids are one thing, right? Because to your point, maybe kids don't know any better, but just grown-ass adults. Have you seen the viral video of the guy in the wheelchair named Terry?
Wheelchair? No.
Oh, you've got to search this up. I don't even know. Hold on. I think if you just search, put it in reverse Terry on Twitter, you should find it. The guy who's doing the voiceover is, put it in reverse Terry. Just search that up right now. There's a video. You got to listen to it with the sound up, though.
Hold on a second. Yeah, put you on speaker.
Okay.
What am I searching now?
Put it in reverse Terry. Everybody out there, play along with us. Put it in reverse Terry, and you'll see a fireworks situation. But you got to play the sound.
All right. Put it in reverse Terry. Will you hear the sound when I play it?
I don't know, but as long as you hear it, that's all I care about.
Oh, all right, I'll watch it.
You got to hear it though.
The other guy is just standing right there with him.
You can hear the voiceover, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, look. The guy filming it just stands there as this guy in a wheelchair who clearly can't move his electric wheelchair is just sitting there. He's just screaming at him to put it in reverse, and he does not. It's people like this who, A, make me laugh, but B, you're the cow of the week. Because this fireworks thing, it's not that hard, people. It's really not that hard.
Yeah, I saw earlier today of a guy lighting like a Pikachu firework inside his room.
Yes.
Looking like the whole house was going to catch on fire. We know the whole Jason Pierre-Paul thing where he blew off half of his hand.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know. Leave this stuff to the professionals, I guess. You go out there, watch your fireworks, take your videos, share that all over the place, I guess. But actually lighting it yourself, use some common sense at least.
That's the other thing is you people filming I think I've done this rant before, so I apologize.
Uh-huh.
You people filming the fireworks. So what are you doing with that video? Like, are you
posting it on social media?
Like 9 months from now, you're gonna be like, you know what I really need today? I need to watch that 4th of July fireworks display again. Like, take a couple of pictures. Let's keep it moving. Like the amount of people I saw like filming the fireworks as if they're gonna go back home and be like, hey, kids, gather around, fireworks. I don't understand. What are we doing?
Unless something crazy happens while you're filming. I saw, I think, 3 different fireworks shows last night where people started evacuating, running for their life because they think that there's a shooting going on. And at one point, there wasn't a shooting in Highland Park, Chicago, around there.
Yep.
So crazy times. I guess everything is being videotaped at all times. So when you're out in public, just assume that people are watching you and videotaping it. People are probably videotaping. People have, right now, people I don't know, have a videotape of me yesterday eating an apple pie. What do you think about that?
In my view, that's the least of the videos of you that you need to be concerned about. I feel like that's probably the best one in your favor.
It's possible. Yeah, so I entered the pie eating contest yesterday. I got exactly what I wanted out of the deal. I got free pie. There was also a hot dog contest. I skipped that one. Yeah, I didn't feel like chugging down 6 hot dogs in 3 minutes. Plus, I had just ate lunch, and I didn't order dessert specifically because I wanted the apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I was going for. I didn't know that I couldn't use my hands until after I signed up. I'm like, oh, I kind of changed things. I kind of just wanted to sit there and eat the pie casually. I didn't really care about winning. But, and the one thing they don't tell you, and you're not prepared for when you have to stick your face in the pie, is how much of that gets up your nose. Like that's what threw me off. They didn't give me any napkins or anything. It was a little messy, but it was a fun time.
Could you have stood up and ate it, or you were seated, correct?
Yeah, you're in a chair. You just got to put your face down and go for it. And that's the other thing. The judging, like, it was not an exact science. It's not like we were weighing the pies at the end to see who ate the most, because they were all Publix apple pies, right? So they're all about the same. But at the end, it was just, hey, a round of applause for this one. Who thinks this person ate the most? And people would cheer. And a couple things going against me. One, there was about 6 people competing. It was all women, me, and then one other dude at the other end, right? So everybody's cheering for the women. 2, I had my red, white, and blue stuff on, but I had a Giants T-shirt and a Yankee hat. And I think the MC of the event was kind of, going against me there, playing the whole this guy's a New Yorker thing. We don't root for him kind of stuff. So I didn't get much cheering. There was a guy there, unbiased, and I took his word for it because he was looking there and he was really inspecting all the pies, and he said that I was right up there, number 2, I believe. So I should have at least finished second.
Can we get him on the show? Did you get his number? I want to have him on the show. Was it Juan Gonzalez? Can you confirm that? Okay.
It may have been Juan Gonzalez.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I got jobbed. I should have at least finished top 3.
Okay. In my mind, you did. As far as I'm concerned, the way I'll tell the story is Mike was top 3 in the pie eating contest. I mean, that's the story. You people all heard it here. Make sure you tell all of your friends that. Make sure, again, you tell all of your friends to do all the subscription type stuff we need around here, YouTube, social media stuff. Again, we're trying to do some stuff here. Hopefully, have some fun coming your way in the near future. So if you can follow us along, that would be fantastic. Mike, live show this week? I don't know. Maybe not. As we sit here on Tuesday, maybe some guests, maybe not. Maybe some people are going to be on. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know where we are. So if you're listening to this and it's like Friday and you're like, I wonder if there's a live show, and you didn't see one, then there wasn't. If you do, that means we figured something out here and in a quick short order. Trace is enjoying himself a National Lampoon's European vacation. And Mike, you'll be off at your softball duty. So we'll see what we cobble together. Maybe a live show. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
But Trace is in Europe. He's not doing it right. If he's not posting a picture of him drinking a giant beer every day, what is he doing?
I mean, it seemed like he was going to go 0 dark 30 over there. He had a little Sia message where he basically said, "Hey, I'm out. You won't hear from me for a couple weeks." I think he was going to do a full unplug.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see if he holds firm to that. I mean, we'll see, I don't know where he's at, cell signals. Yeah, maybe he's going to do a full unplug and come back charged up and ready to roll. Or who knows? Maybe he's not going to come back and we're going to be like a Trace on the show this week and we're never going to know. It'll be fun.
By the time he comes back, we may be in the Big Ten.
We may be in 2 different conferences by the time he comes back. But either way, thanks for your patience. We'll figure something out. So make sure you are you're keeping. If you keep tabs on us, you don't need to worry about we're there. I did film a walk and talk though, Mike. I do have a walk and talk ready to go. If indeed we're doing a show, and this is right up your alley. This is inspired by UCF Mike. This walk and talk. So if you get to see it, then great.
So Trace is not even doing walk and talks abroad?
He's out. He's out. Yeah, he's out. No.
Pre-record any and send them to you?
Nothing. No, we got nothing in the Trace bin. It is empty. So we are on our own here, Mike. It's not going well so far, but we will figure it out. But a walk and talk, I do have one ready for you. So just be prepared.
All right. Yeah, I'm interested. Are you in a kayak?
I am not. No, I did not have a kayak nearby, but it's in that same order.
Are you fully clothed?
Yeah, full. Yes, more than not. I guess I would say.
Right.
I'm not head to toe in like pants and a long sleeve shirt, but you seem to do more of the adventurous style walk and talks. So that I took that same theme. It's adventure themed. Trace is more location and ambiance walk and talk. You seemed more adventure walk and talk. So I took more of the adventure because I have no ambiance and theme near me, and I had no special guest.
Right. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. See what you came up with.
You may not see. Who knows? But if you do, it'll be on Thursday. If we don't talk to you then, everybody have a fantastic week. You just might see Mike and I again sometime next week. So until then, everybody, go Knights.
Charge on.